Another stunning accusation from House Republicans today. They claim that they have evidence that a CIA employee recruited people to sign the letter that was written by 51 former intelligence officials that falsely claimed that Hunter Biden's laptop looked to them, and they said, we're pretty smart about these things, so trust us. They said it was Russian disinformation. A very powerful thing to say right before the 2020 election and days before a huge debate between President Trump and now President Biden. Remember, the same Republicans claimed that they had evidence that Antony Blinken, quote, played a role in the inception of this letter. The White House hitting back, saying Republicans are weaponizing their power to go after their political opponents. Let's bring in Mike Pompeo, former CIA director, former Secretary of State, and a Fox News contributor. Good to have you here, sir, as always. Thank you for joining us today. So essentially, one member of the CIA said that he was talking to the part of the agency that signs off on publications, like a book or a letter, and that individual said to him, gee, would you be willing to sign this letter that a lot of the former intelligence officials are putting together? And he said, yes. He said, would your wife also sign the letter? So tell me what you think, sir, about the origins of this letter and the fact that in the active CIA, they were organizing this effort.
Well, Martha, it's great to be with you. Let's make sure we track what we actually know. We know that there was a letter signed by several dozen former intelligence officials who were very plainly attempting to provide President Biden with a talking point, a political talking point for his debate, so that he could say, with respect to the Hunter Biden laptop, nothing to see here, folks, when in fact every one of those officials surely knew that the FBI had this laptop and that it wasn't Russian disinformation. This is the real Russia hoax that took place. We lived under that for a couple years when I was the Secretary of State. They now actively sought to deceive the American people through a letter, using their history as intelligence officials to try and convince Americans for the final 2 weeks of the campaign not to look at it in a serious way. Yeah. Second, we now have these reports that says there was an active duty, someone still working for the U.S. taxpayer in the Central Intelligence Agency who was furthering in the commission of this deceit. That gal needs to be called in. We need to find out what he or she did, why they did it, who they were working for. And Martha, I'd say this. If there was one, there are likely others, too. This fellow was working in, looks like the department that does declassification. I had to submit my book to them before it was released. This fellow would have had access to lots of information, and he would have known how to determine if things were classified. And for him to be actively supporting a letter that was known to be about Hunter Biden's laptop, which everybody knew was actually Hunter Biden's laptop, to provide something for a candidate going into debate, that's politics inside the intelligence community in the most indecent, irresponsible way, and really dangerous for our democracy.
This is the kind of thing that makes people lose trust in our institutions. Obviously, this is huge investigative arm. It's supposed to be part of a very nonpartisan entity, and they all high-fived each other in an email after the debate. Put this up on the screen. Basically, they said, TP, talking points worked well during the debate. Great idea, guys. And it CCs all of these members of the CIA. Very quick thought on that, if you can, sir.
I'm only chuckling because it is so outrageous.
Yeah.
And you can't get the New York Times or the Washington Post to even talk about what took place here. It was wrong. It may well have impacted how people went to the polls and what they did. We know it impacted the information that they had.
Yeah, we've seen polling that says that if people had this information, which was quashed on Twitter, and the New York Post story was, heavily anviled underneath the radar so that people didn't know this was going on. Good to see you, sir. Former CIA director.
Great to be with you, Martha. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.